fatal heart impacts, past painful scars. In fact, I blast tasteful bars and pass. I back up my actions, fact don't ask, grab reactions, jacked attack with every word, then act with class as they hear me snap. I got nothing to lose, cause I fought and felt the bruise. Now I'm not the one confused, call the shots and they produce. I ain't lost, I'm finally loose. Pick a new silver excuse, I need the views to boost me to a new abuse of being used. Everybody wants a piece now, y'all can rest in peace now. You're dead to me, so peace out. Remember, you're discreet now. Get ready for defeat now.
Alrighty. Hello everybody. This is Kirusho here, and now, whenever we last left off with this series, we had Deku, and well, quite a bit of things have happened. In the last part, Deku returned home from Kure Village. Deku was lucky enough to get there in time to participate in their fighting tournament. He knew it was going to happen around that time, and he barely made it there in time. Now, after Deku returned home, he did actually train with Kendo, Mina, and Kirishima, discovering that they've learned the advance in fighting them in combat. Where Deku, he did actually get a bit more serious, being able to actually tear them apart. Now, Deku, he found it to be quite interesting. The fact that he had to get very serious with that shows they've made improvements. Since the last time they met, he could have probably swatted them away like flies. Now, with that being said, upon Deku's return, you did actually have Momo. She didn't participate in that match. However, she did want to make a contract with Deku. The contract's terms were quite simple. Train me for UA, and I will get you a fight with All Might, the #1 hero. Now, this is where everybody, they were quite surprised to see Deku's reaction. Deku, the guy who usually boasts, screams, and yells about the superiority of the Kure genes. He's normal. What the fuck? The sociopath, he's normal. And it alarmed a lot of them. Now, with that being said, Deku, he does accept his offer. As over the course of the next few days to almost a week, Deku, he actually trained with Kendo, Mina, and Kirishima. Deku at least trying to give them advice for what they are going to need to do. While Deku, he does wait for that contract with Momo. Now, the way a Kure contract would usually work is Deku, he would take the payment up front, then he would do the job. That's how the Kure they do operate. With the success rate of the Kure, if you pay someone to do something, and they give you, or you give them the money, they're expected to do it. The Kure, they have a near to zero, failure ratio. They're nearly perfect assassins. And it's been proven time and time again, a Kure will do their job. Now, you do actually have Momo, who, after pulling a lot of strings and paying a lot of money, she was able to get into contact with All Might, as she basically did ask the #1 hero to fight a male Kure named Izuku Midoriya. Now, All Might was very surprised. Izuku Kure. Or, why did I say Izuku Midoriya? Izuku Kure. This name feels familiar from somewhere. Now, All Might, he's not exactly too sure why. He feels like he may have had a run-in with his kid. Possibly? Maybe? Or no. It couldn't have been. Now, you do actually have where All Might, he does actually walk into the dojo today. And he's quite curious to meet the Kure he's supposed to fight. All Might, this isn't his first time fighting a Kure. He's fought Ryan before, and he's even fought many others. However, not many of them can match up to him. Sure, whenever he was a young man, middle school age, and so on and so forth upwards, he got into a few fights. He did at least know American-style boxing, because every young man, if they even wanted a chance at defending themselves, they had to know at least some sort of fighting style. Now, All Might, he is still very curious. He believes he may have ran into Deku before, but he's not exactly too sure. If the boy has a curious, volatile attitude, then he might not want to box him or fight him or whatever they do. But he's still curious. From what she has explained, All Might, he was very hesitant. But she talked about how Deku, he's much less aggressive than most kure. And that simple phrase didn't really put a lot of confidence in All Might about this match. Now, there actually was whenever All Might he did decide to head over. He's being paid quite a pretty penny for this fight. And the money, as bad as it is to say, it is nice. It does help him out with a bit of things. Now, with that, there actually is whenever All Might he does walk into the dojo, and he does get ready. From what he understands, the kure is here. This is his home. And yeah. Upon All Might walking in, he actually does see an interesting fight. There are currently two people going to fight against a man with black hair, and somewhat white tips to it. The man, he has his hands tied behind his back, and he's using his knees to fight two people who do appear to be fast and strong. Now, Deku, as he actually is moving there, is actually whenever he does dodge to his right, taking 3 steps to his right before actually going to switch up his movements, throwing back his other leg. Him going to actually take 3 steps backwards before actually jumping to his left with his right leg. Now, everybody they are watching him. The way Deku's movements are, they're hard to read, they're unpredictable. He's shifting his legs in different patterns, and from what they can tell, it's too fast to even really try to read. And you do actually have the two people who are using the advance, or the lone. Deku, he's going against them. They've gotten some good hits in, and Deku, he seems to just be able to shrug them off. And they're actually over Deku while he's shifting around and moving. He does actually go to look and see who's standing in the doorway. As his eyes, they do see the two yellow things floating in the air above All Might's head. As his eyes do trail down, he does see the face of the number one hero. Deku, him immediately going to trip over his leg, before he actually is going to throw it outwards and regain his balance. As the one Deku actually is going to try and turn his head to the left to call time, someone actually just clock him across the face. Now, Deku, after being clocked, he actually does follow into the movement, before the person actually going to bring up their hand and going to try and shake it off. Now, Deku, after at least saying time through his busted lip, he does actually look back towards All Might, and everybody they do follow Deku's movements. Something distracted him? What could have... Oh my god, that's All Might. Now, you do actually have where people, they do immediately look back towards Deku, as there's probably only one reason why All Might's here. They've talked to the other 4 who've been around this place, and then there actually is whenever Momo, she does get to walk in. Now, Deku, he's just staying there surprised as blood actually is starting to pour down his face. And Deku, he actually does somewhat smirk a bit. Now, All Might, he can tell just by looking at that boy. That's definitely a kure. Young man, you're... Oh, right. Deku just ripping off the restraints he was in, before actually walking over and going to actually cover his busted lip. Now, All Might, he did notice that. That movement was very easy and swift. That's very strange. Now, something I do want to bring to you guys' attention, if you haven't already been able to tell, this All Might is actually very different from canon. He's like most of the men who are born into this world. He was born quirkless, just like Kanon. However, he still wanted to be a hero and have that desire and drive. But he actually has learned fighting styles and combat styles, meaning he's more of a tactician and thinks more on his feet. Along with even he does know the fact that he does know combat styles, it actually does make him more dangerous with the current amount of power he does hold. Even in his prime, I do want to say All Might, or this version of him, could possibly take out the Nomu quicker and easier using American boxing. Now, with that being said, All Might he went on to learn more styles and things like that. However, whenever he got to a good number, along with the United States smash techniques he does have, he felt like he had too many. So he tried to work on those and improve upon them. As you do currently have him now, standing there with Deku. It seems weird. After the young man does treat his busted lip and go to walk over towards All Might, he does get a hold of his hand, trying to introduce himself. Now, All Might he does actually reach out his hand to shake Deku's, as he's very surprised. This is not the usual typical Kure reaction. You must be Izuku. I've heard about you over the phone. Now, Deku he does confirm, as Momo does pop up informing Deku that that does fulfill her end of the deal. Deal? Exactly what am I a part of? There was no mention of this. Sorry, All Might, but me and him made a deal. If he trains me for UA, then he gets a fight with you. I'm sorry? So wait, why am I here now? Shouldn't you get in first? Actually, that's not how the cures work. Yes, All Might, cures they take payment up front in full. We never get half up front and then half afterwards. It's part of our business motto. Besides, I'm well aware I can train her for UA. Typically, cures, they have to deem someone worthy. But there are deals like this in particular, where there could be a loophole. Now, there is actually where Deku he does ask All Might if he does want to fight here, or if he does want to fight somewhere where they can actually exert a bit more power. Now, All Might he does look at the young Kure, asking him his quirk, and exactly if he's related to Ryan, or if he even knows him. Now, Deku he does actually say that he's quirkless, and that you're talking about his uncle Ryan. Uncle? Young man, I'm somewhat familiar with the Kure clan. That could mean many things. Ah, okay. He's my mom's older brother. Directly? Yes. So you're his nephew, you're his closest nephew. Technically, through Kure means yes. Ah, well, this is going to be a disaster. Now, everybody they do look at these two. Deku, the Kure terror of their gym, and the number one hero All Might. They've already seen what Deku is capable of, but many people they know the feats All Might is capable of, and is curious to watch the two clash. Deku's power is at an unknown degree right now, and many of them they want to see where he stands against All Might. Is it possible for a quirkless guy like Deku to beat him? And then there's that technique he does have, the removal, the loan, whatever it's called. He can do it. Now, you do actually have where the two, they do actually step in the car. And people are bummed out to find that the wide open field they usually would train in, yeah, there's something built there now. And these two have to go somewhere, let's just say open, to fight. Now, All Might he would direct them to a beach, informing them that the trash buildup may be there, but it's free of civilians. And the two they do head there, or the three actually, along with the driver. After they do get there and they do actually start talking more, and All Might does want to understand more things, he finds it to be quite interesting. Deku, he's sitting there calmly. He's not rowdy, he's not jumping, he's not excited. So, he's different. And they're actually one of the two they do get on the beach and start to face off. Now, All Might he does inform Deku that he's actually going to at least gauge him for a minute. Gauge me? Yes, young man. Now, All Might he does go to bring up his hands in a boxer stance, informing Deku that he does want to know where he is in terms of his own power. All Might, I've always imagined this matchup. Ever since I was 5 years old, I thought about the day whenever I could throw a punch at you. This is like a childhood dream come true. Christmas, every birthday I've ever had, it feels like it's all combined into one. In fact, my blood's actually starting to boil at this. Now, All Might, he does begin to see that kure intensity. As Deku, he actually does turn on his removal right off the bat. Now, that does say a lot about All Might, and Momo, she could tell quite simply. This fight is not going to be one that would probably be over pretty fast. Now, she just decided to do one thing. Walking back over to the limousine, reaching inside, pulling out a handheld camera, and record. Now, you do currently have Deku and All Might, where Deku, he actually just stand there. Deku going to turn his right leg and go to bring it up. Him putting weight on the front of his foot. As with his other one, he actually is going to put it in somewhat of a running stance, curling his toes as Deku does going to bring up his left arm as a shield. And Deku is going to pull back his right hand as if he's going to throw a solid front punch, or a straight throw, or a straight jab. Now, All Might does look at Deku's fighting style. He doesn't recognize it. It doesn't look like a kure stance. Now, that does surprise All Might. As there actually is one over Deku, he does actually immediately step to his right. And All Might, he actually go to somewhat flinch at that. As just try to pay attention to Deku. Now, you do actually have what Momo, she does see. For that second that Deku, he went to go shift his footing, he disappeared. And she just seemed kind of alarmed. Where did he go? Now, you do actually have what All Might, he does see. Deku, he's moving pretty fast. And there actually is whenever he does get right up into All Might's face and immediately going to throw a straight jab upwards and up into his chin. As All Might, he immediately does go stepping backwards and away from that attack. Now, it's pretty surprising. He's faster than Ryan? Now, All Might, he does get to at least bring up his arm. He's going to test out Deku. Let's see where he stands at about 10%. If he almost landed a jab like that, whenever he had a back away at 20, let's see what 10% power does. Now, All Might, he actually is going to throw a jab right into Deku's stomach. As Deku, he does take the blow and gets sent flying backwards, dragging across the sand. Now, Deku, after moving backwards, he does just going to actually bring his hands down and directly grab into the sand, before lunging forwards on all fours. Now, All Might's pretty impressed. 10% wasn't enough? Now, you do actually have where Momo, she can't really see the battle too well. The two, they seem to be moving at blinding speeds, even for her eyes. And it does just make her wonder how fast the two really are. Now, Deku, he's already above the baseline superhuman stats. Adding the removal on top of that, it greatly does a lot. Now, with that being said, All Might, he does see the way Deku, he's going about things moving. Deku, he actually has got a few jabs in and attacks. And All Might, he does somewhat feel them. It's very interesting. And there actually is where the fight does continue to drag on. Now, All Might, he does still maintain his durability, even in his low-powered form. So while Deku, he's not really getting a lot of solid damage, you can at least tell that All Might, he's got some wear and tear to him. And there actually is where All Might, he does actually continue to face off against Deku. 15, 20%, and then at 25, it does seem where Deku, he does cap out. Deku, he actually just have to start using actual techniques. And it does seem like all that training he can finally put to good use against All Might. Now, Deku, he did quite a number of things. He tried to use techniques his teachers taught him. And Deku, he did even attempt the Buddha Killer against All Might, where he went for a elbow uppercut against the man. And all that really did was just bust his lip. Now, Deku, he did also go for a hard slam, or a shoulder kick, trying to at least throw it into a heel thrust. Deku going to kick All Might directly upwards and into the top of his shoulder, as he actually is going to try and swing up his other leg and directly try and curve it downwards with a heel. smashing it right into the top of All Might's collarbone as he actually is going to try and spin his body, grabbing onto one of All Might's hair as All Might he actually does try to punch at Deku. Deku being able to dodge the blow as he doesn't immediately go for a heel kick directly into All Might's chest. Now, Deku he heel kicks him as hard as he possibly can, and All Might he actually has somewhat spit up a bit of blood. Now, Deku upon noticing that, he actually did find it to be quite strange and interesting. He did it. He hurt him. Okay. He just needs to keep up this constant assault. Okay, come on. Now, you do actually have where Deku, he does actually get punched hard. All Might, he actually does send a 35% smash at Deku, just to try and test the waters more. And Deku, upon being hit by this, he gets sent flying backwards. He was hit straight in the collarbone. And after Deku, he does smash into the ground and skid off of it as if skipping a stone. Momo, she does just stare at him. She is just shocked by it all. These two, they're so strong. Is Deku actually serious right now? If this is the way he's at right now, what he's at, actually being able to hurt All Might, then wow. Now, you do actually have where Deku, he does go to stand up. And he does inform All Might that he really was waiting for the day he could use this. His teachers think it's pretty dangerous, but right now, he feels like it's the perfect amount of time. Now, Deku, he actually does stand back up. And after spitting blood out of his mouth, All Might, he does see that kure bravado. As Deku, he does actually go to bring up his hands. And he does get ready. Now, Deku, he does feel his heart start to pound. And it just gets faster and faster and faster. As All Might, he does start to feel a different sensation coming off of Deku. Now, Deku, you do actually have where his purple eyes, they do somewhat look different. And All Might, he can't quite tell from this distance. But they're actually whenever Deku, he does just somewhat stand there. And the energy around him feels completely different. That bloodlust, whatever just happened to it, it skyrocketed. And there actually is where All Might, he does somewhat flinch at that and he feels frozen. And Deku does go to rush forwards. Now, All Might, as soon as Deku does rush in, he does blitz him. Deku immediately right in front of All Might before actually trying to slam his hand upwards into his gut as hard as possible. And All Might, he does go to take the blow and actually cough up more blood. As the moment All Might sent flying backwards, he does go into his Small Might form. Now, Deku, he immediately wanted to follow up on that. And after All Might did smash on the ground, Deku, he does stand directly above All Might, going to actually pull back his hand and go to throw it forwards. Before All Might, after going to bring up his hands to block, he actually does not feel a punch. And Deku does just stand there with his hand about an inch in front of his face. "You are not All Might. Where is he? Where is he?" Now, All Might can tell from Deku's fist. It's just constantly shaking, his fingers are flexing. Now, Deku, after All Might does tell him that it's him, he does just somewhat look shocked. Deku immediately powering down as he actually has to go to bring up his hand and cover it. Or bring up his hand and cover his mouth. As Deku himself does actually cough up quite a bit of blood. Now, All Might, he does ask Deku if he's alright. And Deku, he does at least try to inform this tiny man that I'll be fine. You just broke my collarbone. I think you also got me one of my ribs. No, wait, that's about 8 of them. You were fighting with a broken collarbone and busted ribs? Yeah, I'll be fine in a couple of weeks. Maybe about 2. Sorry. You got my blood boiling. I almost lost control for a second there. Now, All Might, he's kind of scared. Deku, that punch, it was the strongest he's been hit by. Aside from All For One, that was pretty damaging. Deku, he hit him about, closer to his weak spot than he wanted to? All Might, he would have gotten that blast in his side, but the fact that he didn't take one more step, he really should have. Deku probably would have killed him then. smashing right into his weak spot and going straight through his ribcage? What was he thinking? He should have paid more attention, made sure he knew what this guy's movements were. He was so paralyzed by whatever that was. Now, you do actually remember she does stop recording, sitting down the camera and running over, trying to understand exactly what's happened. Now, after the explanation of, yeah, this is All Might, and apparently he's been injured in the past before, it does actually somewhat seem surprising. All Might, he can tell from just staring at Deku. Yeah, he's got a smashed collarbone and broken ribs, and, well, a lot more other injuries, but he is acting like he's perfectly healthy and fine. The way he's moving and the way he's acting, it is unnatural, but he's a kure. Now, All Might, he does just go to think. It seems risky, but this boy, he does have control over that power. Maybe. Just maybe it might not be a bad idea. The way Deku's currently at, he'd scale him to be around what, 30, 40% maybe of one for all? That feat alone, for a normal human body, that's insane. Now, Deku, he might be acting like he's okay, but there's one little flaw with what he did. Deku, he activated the loan in his kure form. The amount of stamina that multiplier does eat up, along with his removal, it's incredibly draining. And there's the fact that strain it is put on his body. It could be best described as a knockoff one for all. Deku, yes, his body is released from its human limitations, but the loan, it just increases the human limitations as much as possible. This form Deku, he's discovered, he's achieved, through the union of these two techniques. The knockoff of the removal and the removal itself. Deku's created something wholly new. And in fact, All Might, he does actually seem very curious by this. He wants to know what Deku did. Now, Deku, yeah, he doesn't really explain it to All Might, since he talks about how it's kure secrets. And All Might, he does feel somewhat fearful. The fact that Deku doesn't want to tell him, it means that other cures might be able to do that. If there are people running around that strong, it could be bad. Deku might be able to take on Endeavor right now. Now, All Might, he does at least try to think. These two, they now know about his tiny form. And as they actually are driving to UA because All Might needs to go see Recovery Girl, he does somewhat think. Sure, Miss Yagirozu, she's very strong and intelligent and smart, but she's a normal person. Her body, it does seem like she's been working out these last couple of years. But even then, she might not be ready for one for all. But then there's Deku. Deku, he's been working out his entire life. Hell, he's probably been doing push-ups since he was in kindergarten. He could give Deku one for all. But that's just a problem. Deku, he's gained control over his power. And he's shown immense amounts of restraint. But adding one for all on top of that, if Deku, he ever does just one day lose it, what would happen to him? A one-for-all crazed kure running around? That's something that All Might, he does have fear of. But even then, there's a larger fear in his head. All for one. Deku, from what he knows, yeah, he's basically a bodyguard. If he's paid to do it, he can't go against it. So if he's paid to take on All for One, he's on the hero's side. At least that's how All Might does see it. So, he does have a few things to think about. Deku, Momo, or somebody else at that gym. So, he'll need to keep tabs on them for right now just to see exactly what might be the best idea. Now, with that being said, All Might, he has dropped off, and Deku, he even does meet Recovery Girl, who she's quite surprised looking over his injuries. And after he is healed, he does almost immediately collapse, Now, it was quite surprising, and they quickly found out that Deku he is almost out of stamina. As Momo and All Might they did take Deku back over to the limousine, and he was able to lay down and rest. Now, Deku he is still conscious. However, he can't really move his limbs too well. As Momo herself, she does actually ask Deku about the entire battle. And Deku he does try to explain it. The battle was good, and there actually was whenever he did punch All Might. Deku he didn't try to go for a lethal blow. He thought All Might, yeah, he probably could block the attack, but even then, it's lethal. Deku he doesn't want to waste a fight like that. So he aimed for something less than that. He aimed lower. And he hit All Might right in the gut. And it's kind of weird to her. She's asking Deku about that form, and Deku doesn't really say a word about it. However, Deku does quickly change things over to her training. Tomorrow morning, whenever he can move again, they'll get to talking. And they'll meet at her house. Now, Momo, she's very ecstatic by this. However, she actually does like training with Kendo, Mina, and, well, Kirishima. The three, they are friends, and she does know Deku's cousin. So, they could try doing that. Bring in another kure to somewhat help balance it out more, or do that. But Deku, he does inform her. If they do bring in Saki, then things won't really be as good. She'll be focused on fighting him. And even then, she's got a lot more of an attitude problem than he does now. So it's best that he is the one in control of the training. Now, with that being said, I'm going to leave this part off on a bit of a question that I know people they've been curious about. Should Deku get one for all in this timeline? Now, it's really just a matter of should I or could I? I'm going to be posting a poll whenever this does get uploaded. If you guys are looking at my community tab and you're confused, watch this video. I'm really just going to state that in that tab. I want to know what you guys do think. If he should or should not have the power. Since, yeah, removal 1 million. Now, with that being said, I do hope you guys enjoyed. Have an amazing day. I'll catch you guys in the next part.